6 days, the first 6 days of these actions. It's really been incredible, day after day after day after day after day, 50 to 60 people going to the White House, very in a dignified way, going from Lafayette Park across the street, sitting down in front of the White House gates with signs and banners. It definitely is having an impact. We haven't had breakthroughs yet into kind of major national media, but there's a lot of media, a lot of publicity that's getting out about it. And this is going to be going on up until September 3rd, every day, possible exception of this weekend, depending upon what happens with Hurricane Irene, but that's the plan. It's really, Tim DeChristopher, before he went to prison, talked about what the movement needed to do. It wasn't enough just to kind of do an action on one day and then we all go back home. He said we need to be doing things day after day after day after day. We have to be provoking a political crisis around whatever it is that we're taking action on. And that's what's happening as a result of this action. Things are happening because of it that wouldn't have happened before. The New York Times came out with an editorial calling upon Obama to reject the permit for the Keystone Pipeline. That happened about 5 days ago, Sunday. Daphne talked about the Environmental Defense Fund and their role, which has been a really pretty bad one. Well, there was a statement that came out signed by about 10 or 11 leaders of a cross-section of environmental and climate groups, from the EDF on one side, Natural Resources Defense Council, over to Greenpeace, Rainforest Action Network, 350.org. This came out just a couple of days ago, and they said, we have our differences on tactics and otherwise, but when it comes to this issue of the Keystone Pipeline, there's not an inch of difference between us and the people who are sitting in at the White House. No permit for the Keystone Pipeline. It was like a public open letter. So there's things like that that are happening. So it's an example of how kind of stepping it up like this is like the March on Blair Mountain. A week-long march going right into the heart of coal country, right into the heart of it. But making the connections and doing good, smart organizing has had a real impact, a real political impact in the state of West Virginia, I'm sure, and beyond. And the same thing with this tar sands action. I mean, who knows what's going to end up happening. I don't trust Obama. I definitely don't count on Obama to do the right thing. But with this pressure, as a counter to everything that's coming from the oil industry and, the corporate types who are in his administration, et cetera, maybe we can get him to do the right thing. He definitely is in trouble politically, and he hopefully will see that if he maybe finally does the right thing on this big issue, this big climate issue, that maybe it will have some impact on his base, which is pretty alienated based upon a lot of the decisions he's made.
Can you explain why it's in his hands? Exactly, what is the action?
It's just the way the law is set up. It's not something that has to go through Congress. There needs to be a permit granted by the federal government, and it's in the hands of the president, ultimately. He's tasked it to the State Department in terms of looking at it, but it's ultimately a political decision, obviously.
The EPA has come out against it. I mean, they've come out with an analysis that basically says...
They criticize the State Department.
So you've got the EPA and the State Department in direct conflict, and it looks like, I think today, the State Department is releasing their...
They might be doing that,
assessment that looks like they're going to approve it. So really, Obama has the authority.
Right.
It's up to him.
It's up to him. So, again, just my last point, in the earlier session in this room that a few of you were at, there was a lot of talk about, accurate talk about how bad things are with the climate crisis, how deep it is, how serious it is, whether or not we've reached a tipping point that we can't get beyond, etc. That's all important. We really have to understand the gravity and the depth of the situation, but ultimately, whatever comes in the future, there's just so much we can do about the future, but there's a lot we can do about the reality right now, and we all have to figure out how it can be most effective on a day-to-day basis. Grassroots organizing, the interconnections, and stepping it up in a way that's appropriate, and hopefully, we'll make a difference in terms of the future if we do that. Thanks.